You are live, Mayor.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Newington Town Council special meeting of Wednesday, December 7th, 2022. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:35. If you would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance if you are able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America,
and
to the republic
which
which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice
and
for all.
justice for all.
Right. Susan, if you could do the roll call, please.
Okay, Councilor Braverman,
She's muted, but she is here.
okay, Deputy Mayor Budraco,
Here.
Councilor Camillo,
Here.
Councilor Donahue,
Here.
Councilor Mankey,
Here.
Councilor
Got
Nagel,
their microphone on their laptop.
But she's got to mute his.
No, I think it's Kim.
No,
She's got her. It's the top, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's on. No, it's on. It's not me. No, it's got the red light on, like it's mute. She's muted.
It's on phone call. That's the one. It's got to mute it while.
No, I think it's okay now. Okay. It was her.
Good.
can I continue?
Yes, apologize.
No, Councilor Page,
Yes, I'm here on Zoom. Thank you.
okay, Councilor Rana,
Here.
Mayor Del Buono.
Here.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
You're
All
welcome.
right, folks, we'll continue on now to public participation. Because this is a special meeting, public participation is limited to only items that are on the agenda this evening. If you would like to participate, you can either in person come forward to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, or if you are on the Zoom application, you can raise your hand within the public participation window to let us know that you would like to be recognized. We do have a 3-minute time limit, and we are open for business. Yeah, come on up.
Good evening. My name is Clark Castell, 167 Connecticut Avenue. I'm going to do this as gently as I can because I find when I'm facing people who I usually agree with on so many other things. But I do have a couple of points I want to make on item 5B. I want to begin by affirming that I've always been in favor. Can you hear me? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I've lost my voice. I've always been in favor of managed development in the town. I've always wanted to develop the National Welding Site. And I believe that Anthony Partners apartment plan is a good way to do it. My problem is how we got here and what I believe are terms and conditions in the various agreements that are highly unfavorable to the taxpayers of Newington. When the previous council was, I believe, rushed 2 years ago into approving a purchase and sale agreement, then Councilor Chris Minor raised some concerns, one of which was, without conducting an appraisal, please correct me if I'm wrong, the sales price was announced at $1,470,000, with the public being ignorant at the time of the fact the town had agreed not to bill and collect $470,000 in permits and fees. That brought the effective sales price down to $1 million. And before further erosion of that price that I will shortly explain, that was for land upon which the developer now plans to build $70 million worth of apartments. So I have to ask, who other than Anthony Properties can build a $70 million structure on a piece of land that is worthless or worth so little when the land value of a commercial property is typically between 10 and 20% of its total value? Secondly, as the FOI Commission recently ruled in response to a complaint that I filed, information was illegally withheld from me prior to the public hearing that preceded the council meeting by the town manager and attorney, whom the FOIC has since castigated appropriately. Unfortunately, I feel as if the town continues to treat the public with, I need a new word. I was going to say contempt, but I want to withdraw that. Or at least I think you're treating me that way. We weren't notified of this meeting until a little before 3 p.m. yesterday. Tuesday, even though the councilors knew about it 4 days earlier. Where then, may I ask, with so little notice, is your commitment to keeping our citizens informed and inviting their input? Third, the purchase and sale agreement called for a development contract to be drafted by January 16th, 2021, nearly 2 years ago. In response to a second FOI request, I just received it, and I want to thank James and the others for respecting this request this time. Only recently written, I can surmise, since it refers to the 45% property tax forgiveness scheme that you have agreed to. Another concession that makes it look to me like you are paying the developer to take title from us rather than selling the land to him. Fourth, the agreement obligates the town to shoulder up to an additional $500,000 in remediation efforts. We've already paid millions in remediation efforts. Something I believe Anthony Partners should pay for entirely based on the bargain price they got the property for. That $500,000 will further reduce the effective sales price from $1 million down to $500,000 and raises another question. As an unbudgeted item, are you sure that you can legally commit to pay this item without passing an ordinance first to pay this amount? That's a question. Fifth, another provision of the agreement acknowledges that the town may have to provide additional infrastructure assistance to Anthony Properties, raising the possibility that the effective sales price could be even lower than $500,000. I'm concluding by emphasizing that I have a lot of respect for the capabilities of town staff. In this case, however, I believe the national welding agreements were not properly vetted and are too favorable to the developer. I hope that in the future, when faced with this type of situation, we acknowledge our limitations and seek professional help rather than trying to go it alone. Or implore the new acting town manager, town attorney, and mayor to decline in the future to behave in such a secretive manner. The public has the legal right to know what our administration is doing and to hold them accountable for the decisions they make. We should all commit to handling similar transactions in a much better way in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Costello. Excuse me. We have a member of the public online that would like to speak as well. Ms. Lyons.
Hi, Rose Lyons, 46 Alton Drive. First of all, want to thank Clark for following through on his FOI request right down to the very meeting that you're having tonight. Once again, I just want to go on record as saying I have never seen so many items come before the town council as I have in the last 2 years, that something has to be done immediately that night and waivers are requested. As much as I love to see National Welding go, I've been through 3 town managers and now we're on to a 4th before the property has come to be sold. I really wish that it didn't have to be rushed. It just seems like it's becoming the norm and not the exception to the rule. Just my feeling on the whole process. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you, Ms. Lyons. Okay, let me just see if there's anyone else. I do not see anyone else, so we can continue. Next item is remarks by councilors on public participation. Go ahead, Councilor Mo.
Back in 2015, the Amera project up on the hill, they came to us for an abatement also. And it was given to them. And we were not the majority. It was done on your side, sir. And what's happening in a lot of towns around here is either you get the project going or you don't, and no one touches it. So some taxes are better than none, and we're still sitting on it and maintaining it. So.
All set?
Yep.
Thank you. And Councilor Page?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I know when we talked about the tax scheme in terms of the abatement, one of the questions I had, and I don't know that it was answered fully, as to whether or not there was an assessment of the value of the property, an appraised value by an objective third party that would better inform everyone involved in how to move forward with the sale price. And I agree, it's great to have the development. I support the development, and I think it's good to look at ways to increase our tax revenues, to stabilize our mill rate. I think we all agree on that. I too have concerns, though, that we've undervalued this property, and we run the risk of not gaining as much for the taxpayers as we could in the final analysis. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Page. Councilor Mankey?
Yeah, just in response to Ms. Lyons' comments, I agree with her. I don't like doing waivers. And we try to do them as infrequently as possible. I think both of these waivers will be explained why the action is necessary. I know I keep looking up at the screen. Why the action is necessary as the evening goes on here. We'll explain why those are necessary, and it should be pretty self-evident why we have to do this pretty quickly. But I agree with her. We don't like to waive things if we can avoid it, but sometimes there's no way to avoid it. So.
Okay. Councilor Camillo?
One other thing, the value of the property would be less because of the contamination there. And you have to consider that in the price also for what they may find when they open the ground. And they're only going to pay what they're going to pay. Just like if you see a house that's $700,000 for a price, but it's only worth $350,000, you're going to offer them $350,000. And, you know, you may open a can of worms there, and that's why the price is what they were. So, and it's not just that project, it's others in town too.
Right. I'll just, Deputy Mayor Bedrejko?
No, I just want to, for Clark, I mean, I remember this National Welding was, I think when you were still on the council, when I was sitting where you are now, it's been a long history for the town of trying to do something with the property. And there were a lot of issues, you know, from all parties and, you know, state, local, whatever, in terms of, you know, the busway development, and the fact that, you know, it's been on the market for a while, and the bites that we were getting were not really consistent with what the POCD or the vision, the initial vision of what, you know, property along the bus area is going to be. And, you know, as Councilor Connell also said, is that, you know, other towns are, you know, doing tax abatements, whatever, whether that's right or wrong, I don't know, but, you know, we do have to stay in competition. But I do want to say, you've always been honorable as a counselor, and I respect the fact that you are. I don't, the way that you've done business in the past is a way that I want this council to do business in the past, being, you know, as open and honest as we can be. And, but this, I guess I don't even really, I'm not quite sure even where I'm going with this, but the fact is that there were many issues, many things that had to be done to get this property to the point where we can market in a way that would be desirable for the type of development we want. But I also don't want to disappoint residents like you who do look to us to do what's right for the town, just as you did when you served on the council. And I hope that in the future that we can, I'm taking your comments into account in terms of you know, vetting and again, accountability, and no one, you know, more than I or most people on this council, we campaigned about transparency, and I hope that we can gain back your trust. But this was an important property, and I just want to get it done, get it moving, and get it developed in the way that's going to be the best for the residents of Newington. And unfortunately, the way it transpired, in my opinion, this is the way that we went forward with it. But thank you for your interest in staying involved in it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would just say, oh, go ahead, Councilor Nagel.
Thank you. I just decided to chime in after Councilor Bedrejko was talking about many things that I can Clark and I have lived through, because I was on the council when Clark was on the council as well. And I know at one point, Clark, I hope you don't mind my saying this, Clark said, if you and I were in the room together, we'd get things done a lot more agreeably and quicker. So even though we may disagree on various things. So I know where you're coming from, but I also know how the climate has changed and the development that is, and how it's happened in terms of that piece of property. And what on either side, it's been a long winding road, so to speak, to be brief. It's a property that the town has had with no, because we bought it, with no revenue coming in for many years. Because of the abatement problems and whatever, and other things, which I won't get into. It's been a property that has not been sellable for many years. We have not gotten people who are interested in it until more recently. Things have fallen through, but until more recently, there hasn't been someone who's dedicated to want to do that property, and some abatement has been done. Agreements have been made with the state in terms, because they had some stake in this because of fast track. I won't go into details about that. And all those things have been sorted out. So while we may agree that the property is worth the value originally, or maybe even more so in this day, things have happened that people won't come forward to take advantage of the property. And then what is going to be placed in there, which was kind of like the cornerstone for what other things that came along in town, made it a key acceptable development, more so than other things that might have gone in that general area, or other places. So it becomes a necessary for the well-being of the town, even though what you've said may very well be true, that indeed funds are going to come to the town that would never come to the town otherwise, and that because of the climate, as Councilor Camillo has pointed out, in terms of availability and abatements, or whatever you want to call it, given tax-wise, to get something developed that will eventually bring revenue that we would never get, needs to be considered by us in this day and age. It was the first probably movement, I won't say first, because some people may disagree, of a major concern of getting development into the town of Newington to provide money for taxes eventually for the town that we would never be able to receive in those amounts. And with an idea and a value of what they were putting in that was a very highly acceptable generalization. And it becomes the point where here we are at the final moment of getting all the pieces together, and to go back and rehash or whatever, or to say, oh, this is terrible or that's terrible. Okay, but we're at the moment where what can be done to that property is going to be done in a way that is beneficial to the town down the road for revenues coming to town that would never come to the town otherwise, or that we would be holding on to that property as a blank slate and not getting any revenues for it as well, or any development of any sort, at least as far as I can tell over the last few years. So I know where you're coming from. I agree, but things have changed over the years, and it becomes a viable, important piece to follow through with. And if it needs to be waived for whatever reason at this point, I'm not in favor of waivers either. It's something that we need to do to finalize, to get finally something done on that property, which has been in development one way or another for many, many years, even with this particular developer. I've gone on too long. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Councilor Camillo, I will just remind councilors, we're still under public participation comments. We still have to debate this item later on in the agenda too.
There will be permits taken on this, about $400,000 worth. And there was a project that came forward to your council, and
right,
because it was TOD and that kind of stuff, it was squashed and put to the side back in 2014-15. Andy Brecker, I think it was one of his only projects he brought forward. So, and it seems like the world's on fire right now and projects keep coming along and the town is benefiting, thank God.
Okay. There's another hand up. I'm never going to get to talk. Go ahead, Mitch.
Sorry, Mayor, just one more clarification. I just want to clarify. I knew initially this discussion tonight was intended as a prelude to a vote. My understanding is we're voting next week, not tonight, correct? This is informational only?
So that just came to us as we walked in this evening that we are being asked to waive, and that'll be explained once we get to the agenda item.
Okay.
Yeah, that was unexpected. We just found out, but we'll explain that as we get there. Okay. Clark, I just wanted to say, first of all, I appreciate that you came forward and followed through on what is at the heart of what your concern is. And we do need to hear that, whether we like it or not. In terms, like you said, you hate to say things, you know, that for people that you in general get along with. And I know that's difficult. So I do appreciate that that is difficult to do. And I respect the fact that you're able to come on and do that. We need to hear it if there's something that's bothering any resident. So I do appreciate that. I'm upset to hear that you feel like there was kind of a nefarious plot to withhold information, because I don't, at least from my perspective as, you know, sitting on the council, that was not the intent of, I don't think, the council at the time or anyone involved. I think there were some questions, I think the evening that you asked us some questions that we didn't have answers to perhaps. So I, you know, behind the scenes, I don't know what happened. And I know that you mentioned the FOI complaint they found in your favor. And certainly that is something that we would look at as well, not as a council, because we don't really handle the FOI complaints. But town staff certainly, and town attorney looks at when FOI rules in that way, we look at how we need to modify our practices. So you know, I guarantee you that we are doing that behind the scenes to make sure that those things don't happen again, because that's never our intent, to withhold something that we shouldn't withhold to a member of the public. So I won't even get into the content of it. We're going to talk more about that later, but I just wanted to address that concern. And I don't have any other hands up, so we will continue on to new business. Whoops. The first item this evening is before us is the acting town manager employment agreement. So I will just start by saying that, as you know, on November 14th, we had approved the appointment of the acting town manager due to the departure of Mr. Chapman. Effective December 2nd, we appointed James Krupinski as our acting town manager. As such, we had allowed the town attorney to begin negotiating a contract for that 90-day appointment. And so before us this evening is a resolution to go ahead and enact the contract. So the reason we're asking for a waiver on this, quite frankly, is that it took this long to get it done, and James is already serving in the position. So it seems only fair that we would do the best we can, due diligence, to get this contract in effect and get payroll set to go for him. So that's the reason we're asking for a waiver this evening. This is pretty common practice and boilerplate in terms of our past town manager agreements. It's right in line with what we've done in the past. So James, do you want to, I mean, it's weird. You're in a weird role because you're like our clerk tonight, and we're working on ironing that out as well. But is there anything else that you would add to that?
No, you actually covered it pretty well. Had we waited until the 13th, we would have gone past the existing payroll period, because that is actually the closing point of it, would be our meeting night. Payroll would be paid out the next morning.
Okay.
So we'd be another 3 weeks out from that as well. So
Thank you.
I'm probably sure.
I knew there was another piece. Thank you.
Want to read the waiver?
Yes, please.
Resolved, the Newington Town Council, in accordance with Section 11 of the Town Council Rules and Procedure adopted February 22nd, 2022, hereby moves to allow action on agenda item 5A to approve the acting town manager employment agreement.
Second. Seconded by Councilor Rada. Any discussion on the waiving? I'm going to look to James because I always get confused on the order of this. In terms of allowing public participation, it's after we introduce the actual motion, correct? All right, thank you. I want to make sure. All right, folks, if there's any discussion
But we have to read the motion.
on the waiving? No, what?
We have to vote on that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Okay, all those in favor for waiving this evening, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
I think we lost Sharon.
No, she's still there. Yeah, she's waved at us. All right, next this evening before us is the actual resolution regarding the employment agreement. Who would like to read that in?
I can do that if you want.
Okay.
Resolved, the Newington Town Council establishes the following with regard to its appointment of James Kropinski as acting town manager. 1, while serving as acting town manager, Mr. Kropinski shall receive a salary of $5,769.23 bi-weekly, retroactive to December 3rd, 2022, with a review and possible adjustment upon renewal of the appointment. All of Mr. Kropinski's existing benefits will continue, modified as necessary to reflect the change in salary from his position as town clerk. 2, while serving as acting town manager, Mr. Kropinski shall have the unrestricted use of a town vehicle. The town council shall be responsible for all costs relating to the operation and maintenance of said vehicle. 3, Mr. Kropinski shall have the right to return to his position of town clerk at the conclusion of his term as acting town manager or upon removal as acting town manager, except in the case of a for-cause removal. 4, the town council shall furnish and provide.
Don't hold us accountable, just the town.
I'm sorry, the town, sorry, the town. Well, the town council, I guess. The town shall furnish and provide Mr. Kropinski with insurance protection, including comprehensive general liability and errors and omissions coverage applicable to all acts or omissions arising out of his employment as acting town manager. 5, the council reserves the right to remove the acting town manager at any time for cause with 6 affirmative votes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Nagel. And now discussion on this, we're gonna open it up to public input first. Trying to follow the right protocol. And we have Rose Lyons.
Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. This may be the one and only waiver of the rules that I'll say I'm behind 125%. And thank you, James, for accepting the position. It's going to be difficult during the budget season, and I certainly do appreciate it, as I'm sure the rest of the residents in Newington do as well. Thank you again.
Thank you, Rose. All right. If anyone in the room, are you good?
I didn't know it was public to speak.
When we waive the
When we waive the
rules,
rules,
we
yeah.
allow an opportunity for public to speak on the item because they haven't had an appropriate time to speak on it. Yep.
Went through a 2-part process.
We did pass that in our rules of procedure to make sure that public had an opportunity.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then you're now going to discuss the appointment of,
Mhm.
okay, I just want to say that I can't be more pleased. I like this guy a lot too, and I wish him luck. And I promise not to give him too hard a time.
Thank
We get
you.
things to you.
We have that on tape.
I said try.
Try.
All right, so that is our public participation. There's no one else in the public with their hands up, so we'll move into the council discussion of the item. Councilor Page?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say utmost respect to James. Hard worker, bright guy, has helped me a lot as I've learned this job, and very much appreciate you taking on this big responsibility. You have our confidence, and I wish you nothing but the best. I know it'll be a good run. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Page. Any other councilors? Okay, I would just say I'm very much in favor, as I mentioned earlier, of getting this done this evening. I know the waiver is not something we love to do, but given the fact that he's already serving in the position, it's only fair to make sure we get this in place for him. And as I mentioned earlier, the language in the contract that, in the resolution is in line with every town manager contract that we've ever had. So nothing new. All right, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you, James. All right, next up this evening is the sale of town-owned property, 690 Cedar Street. There is a waiver requested this evening, and I'm going to turn it over to James to explain this item.
So at the onset of the initial memorandum that went out to everybody, there were a couple of issues that arose. One of them being we had a 60-day notification to the EPA on a sale of property. So unfortunately, the closing that we planned on having for tomorrow cannot go forward yet. We have been lucky enough. The Anthony Properties representatives have been very forthcoming with us on everything going on. We've been trying to help them. They have been nice enough to supply us with a 90-day extension. We're hoping to not use all of that. We will be getting in touch with Fuss and O'Neill to finalize the budget for the remediation as well, because that is still not an item that's been, I'll say, reinstated. They have a small amount of a difference between us, which is something they haven't reimbursed us for because it's been outstanding since May. But in order to execute the extension, we would need to take action on the waiver to allow me to execute documents on that, because we are still under the execution requirement under Mr. Chapman from 2020.
Okay.
But that's the main reasoning behind this. If we didn't have that issue, we'd still be waiting for the action to take place tomorrow. But in this case, we want to make sure that we're keeping our purchase agreement and everything in place. They've been very forthcoming with the funding that they're required to deposit each time. And I've actually had some great interactions with both Mr. Shu and his paralegal. So I think this will get done. We'll get it done hopefully a little sooner than later. I'm hoping that different discussions with the ECD and EPA, maybe we can get it through a little bit faster and get the project completed and started. I know Mr. Shu does have currently biddings out for general contractor. He went with an expanded listing of 5 different contractors this time. He's hoping to see some positive outlooks when those bids come in on January the 17th.
Great.
So I'm hoping we'll be in the same line for him. As those come in, we'll be able to close on the property with him and get the project moving.
Okay. And so just for clarification, the primary reason that this resolution is in front of us is so that you can execute whatever documents are necessary. This resolution was already passed, but it was passed with Mr. Chapman's name in it, which precludes you from being able to execute the documents now. So that's really the primary reason for this, is that whatever comes forth as being necessary, James would be able to do.
Correct.
I have a bunch of hands up, so I'm going to call on some folks here. Deputy Mayor Bedrejko.
No, I'm just curious, and again, it's just my lack of understanding of the process. So tomorrow, what expires tomorrow? The EPA?
No, nothing expires tomorrow. We were expected to do the full closing tomorrow.
Okay.
Based upon some review of the original negative pledge agreement that was put in place in 2014, the funding we received for remediation on the site from DECD, there are still some outstanding issues. Because of those issues, the state and federal will not let us close on that based upon the contamination on the site itself. So we have to get the sign off to be able to work through the EPA part of it. We have to make sure that the rest of the remediation funds that we have for the project that are through the town, so they'll be as a pass through to the developer, are available for the completion of the capping of the contaminated soil, which is where the existing the new parking garage will go into place. All of that has to come into play. But the biggest piece for us, we really wanted to close tomorrow, but without having that 60-day notification to EPA, we can't do anything.
And the developer granted us an extension in
Correct.
order for us to resolve all
But we need this, okay.
that.
I got that through this morning.
Okay, thank you.
So, like I said, they are extending out for us until March 10th, 2023.
So that's a final, well, the last date that the closing should be, but we hope it'll.
Minimum requirement of the 90-day to EPA, and with the hope that they will review that faster for us based upon the project where it's been vetted through. We hope to have that completed sooner than later.
Okay, thanks.
Councilor Rada?
Yeah, James, you probably just explained this, but I was curious, without going into a tremendous amount of detail, what the EPA is requiring.
I had an answer to that. I do not know at this point. There's a notification that
Beyond the
we
cap,
need to-
the remediation, the capping, what you just mentioned.
Yeah,
I was just curious. as to
There is
what
just
else.
something that's as part of the negative pledge agreement due to it being a brownfield site
Mhm.
that requires us to notify EPA in addition to the work that we handle through DECD.
Okay.
So it's just another requirement that ourselves as well as the developer didn't realize what was in place at the time. Otherwise, we would have had it completed a long time ago.
That was maybe my next question is
Yes.
why weren't
It was
we aware
it
of
was a surprise to all of us as we were having a meeting on this Tuesday midday, I believe. And back and forth, and we all realized that we had a few issues that were still outstanding that really should have been completed by now. It's just unfortunate, but we will be working on those. I have actually got a call into Fuss and O'Neill just to make sure that they get the budget completed. They actually handled the site overview. They've done all the reporting on it so that we know where contamination is, what the contamination itself is required to be capped or how it's to be handled. So right now there is on site a pile of contaminated soil that will actually be relocated to the new garage site. That will then be capped over. So no impact to that area. The rest of the hotel itself will be built around that in phases, starting at the northerly side of the parcel, coming around and reattaching back into the garage itself. So they have that part all planned out. Additionally to that, we do still have to put into effect, and that's one of my calls into Fuss and O'Neill as well. Their attorney O'Connor has a requirement to receive a agreement regarding the cost the town and the state are sharing regarding that remediation cost. So those are the funds we've already received in 2014.
Mhm.
There's still roughly, I believe it's $272,416 worth of funding that's still available to utilize inside of this project. We have to be the ones that handle the purchase or the payoff to those developers who come in to handle it for them.
Because we received that money.
Correct. We can't just give it to the developer and have them complete it.
Right.
We have to handle that side of it. So we're working on that with the state, and that is that budget item, which I have here. We do have the draft budget from back in May. For some reason, we have not had it approved by the DECD, and we're not sure why. So they have had this since, I want to say it was late May that the emails went back and forth from Mr. Kosofsky, myself, well, at the time, my position currently in the town manager's office, as well as Fuss and O'Neill. So they were working on it. We're not sure where the ball was dropped on that piece. Additionally to that, as I said, DEC project approval, getting that completed, knowing how we're going to be spending those funds to complete the rest of the remediation in the site. The scope of work under the negative pledge requires that 60-day notice to EPA, as I said, so that one still needs to be completed. We do still have possible changes that are being looked at on the developer agreement as well. That's minor. That wouldn't really have affected us that much. And then, of course, the project extension that we just received today for signature, hopefully tomorrow after your action this evening. No, that was a lot to a short requested answer.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you.
Good thing you asked for a
and-
short
Yeah,
answer.
really, I mean, we'd still be here at 9 o'clock. No, thank you for picking up that ball and doing, it's a heavy lift and thanks. And thank you for the details.
Pleasure.
Councilor Menke?
So just to summarize, it sounds like this is just a piece of paperwork we need to file and we didn't realize we had to do prior, correct?
And both sides are at fault on that one.
Right.
Yes.
Right, okay. And just to make sure we're all aware, the money that we're gonna use to spend on recapping is we already have the money, but it's earmarked for this project. So it's not money we're taking out of taxpayers' dollars to sell this property. This is money we've already been given it to us by the state, and we're holding it to finish up the project.
Correct. We've been holding it since 2014. We did the original cleanup on the site, the demolition of the building.
Right.
And
And
now
so
we're
if
at
we
that
weren't gonna
endpoint.
do this, we can't keep that money. We'd have to give it back to the state. Okay, thank you.
Correct.
That's all I need.
That's the balance, the 272.
Yeah, I believe I
change.
may have an exact number on
That's
that.
okay. Just, we don't need the exact.
No,
number,
that's
just
fine, yeah.
The funds are there.
Right, and 6 cents,
6 cents.
approximately.
He's so detail oriented.
That's that clerk
Oh,
side of it.
Deputy Mayor Bedrejko.
I'm just curious. Okay, I mean, I know you just answered it, but, I know it was in, Mr. Castell's, inquiries. So it is not going to cost the town any additional funds for the remediation.
No, we have funding that has been in our CIP right along, as well as DCD funds for the remediation of the
Okay.
site.
Okay.
Those are being allocated to the project in
So
order
they're
to
already
complete
been
it.
allocated and they're not, okay, thank you.
I believe they're both almost the identical amount, about 270 on our CIP side that we had allocated going way back, and the remaining that we have from DCD funds.
Okay, thanks.
Correct.
And I was, thinking in my own head how I equate everything kind of to my own life and how it equates a little bit. I'm thinking of the remediation piece as like, if I'm trying to sell my house and I have termites, it's on me to fix that first before I'm able to sell it. And we knew that site was in need of remediation. We applied for the grant. We did all that we could do, but it is on us to fix that, so to speak, before
Or assist the developer in this case.
Right.
To complete that process.
Right, but the onus is on us, so that makes sense. Okay. All right, so before us this evening, in order to take action on this, and I think we understand the urgency and the need based on the fact that we do have a different town manager now who needs to be executing these documents. There is a waiver in our packet. Deputy Mayor Bedrejko, would you?
Resolved, the Newington Town Council, in accordance with section 11 of the Town Council Rules of Procedure adopted February 22nd, 2022, hereby moves to allow action on agenda item 5A to authorize the acting town manager, James Kropinski, to execute all documents necessary for the sale of 690 Cedar Street.
Oh, it should be 5B. Can you just amend it to say 5B?
And just add the S to documents,
Thank you.
to execute all documents.
It is.
You're good with that?
I am
Oh,
fine with
motioner? Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Camillo. Any discussion on the waiver? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I do see Sharon raised her hand in affirmation. Is Mitch on?
I don't see Mitch on.
Dropped off.
We lost him?
Yeah, he did drop off.
Okay, so
Wondering if he's on
motion
his way in. He
passes.
might be on his way in.
He might be walking in. Motion passes 8-0 with Councilor Page absent. Unfortunately, I do have to note that. I apologize, but I get yelled at if I don't. And next before us is the resolution to take action on this item. So go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Resolved, the Newington Town Council hereby authorizes James Kropinski, acting town manager, to execute any and all documents necessary to complete the sale of town-owned property located at 690 Cedar Street.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Nagel, and I will open it up to public input on this item, should anyone like to weigh in, because this is one that we are waiving. I do see Ms. Lyons. Go ahead, Rose.
Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. Once again, I have to say, thank goodness that James is taking on this role, because I don't know of anybody else in the town that probably would know the background on this other than himself. The only thing I was wondering is going forward, and even maybe in this resolution, I don't know whether it's possible or not, seeing that it's going to be 90 days from now, and who knows what's going to happen in 90 days. When you do these resolutions for authority to enter into an agreement, can it be giving the authority to the acting town manager or his successor, if there should be one? Just a thought. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you, Ms. Lyons.
It's a good recommendation.
It is a good
I
recommendation.
think we should check with our town attorney whether it's legal if we just leave the title and not the person.
Not the name, yeah.
We could put
Yeah.
maybe someone appointed, or someone appointed by the town council.
Yeah, I'll check with Ben.
Yeah, so we'll leave it for this evening, for the purpose of this evening, the way it is.
Yeah.
But we will get legal opinion on that to see. You'll reach out to Ben for that?
Will.
Okay, thank you. Good suggestion, Ms. Lyons. Thank you. Any other member of the public that would like to come forward or raise your hand on Zoom? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sharon, are you an aye?
Aye.
Oh, I didn't hear you, but I thought so.
Only
All
an
right.
eye and a hand. I like it.
Any opposed?
We should all raise our hands too.
All right, motion passes 8-0 with Councilor Page absent. Okay. Next item this evening is Public Safety Radio Project Lease Authorization, and I am going to turn it over to you, James.
Good to you. Good. Got your thing, huh?
Got it. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right, so this wonderful 2.5-year project is finally coming to fruition. We have been reviewing the lease agreement as well as the lease purchase agreement authorization that you've seen in your resolution this evening. We've been working with a few gentlemen as well as the chiefs regarding this. We may need to take action on 2 motions this evening. Sorry, not this evening, on next Tuesday. This one is specifically allocating funding within our CIP on an annual basis. So this will be over a 7-year period. Inside of the resolution itself, you'll see the greater amount of that, which is broken out over the 7 years of $4,023,060.55. We actually have gotten confirmation from the vendor. I actually got the actual contract this afternoon. I thank them very much for that. And it does confirm that same dollar amount inside of it. So I was very happy to see that we got the same information when we pulled it out of our documentation that we had prior to receiving the final lease contract. So that'll break out as they are, I believe they listed it as payments in arrears. So our first payment on this would be scheduled technically for 2023 through 2029. Each of those works out to be just about $638,000 each year for that total amount. As long as we take action on the 13th to adopt this, we will meet the deadline of December 21st, which is when our current bidding would expire, and we would have to rebid the project, and we would see a possible escalation in the current rate that we are receiving under the lease agreement. So definitely, it has its urgency, not enough that we do need to waive that this evening.
Right.
But most likely, now that I've got the final lease agreement, and I wasn't sure if I was going to have that before, on the 13th meeting, we'll have the initial resolution that you see in front of you specifically for the lease purchase financing, as well as authorization to execute the lease agreement with them. So that'll be an additional one you will see. But very pleased to see it all coming to fruition. It's been a long process. Mr. Brutat carried quite a workload on this before his departure. We were lucky enough to get a consultant on board to take on the rest of the duties for us. Worked very diligently with the chiefs to make sure that they had the necessary materials moving forward on that. We do have a very short list of 17 pages of all of the items that will be going into each of the areas, dispatch, fire, EOC, all of that. So and they've been moving along very quickly once we've confirmed all of the information that we needed to move this project forward.
Okay.
Very happy to see it coming to a fruition.
Absolutely, as are we. Councilor Menke.
I just want to make 2 points. One, this is on the agenda here at a special meeting because we need to act on it next Tuesday before the 21st. If we act on it.
Yes.
On the 13th, yeah.
If we don't act on it on next Tuesday, on the 13th.
Yeah.
And we go past the 21st, then it goes back out to bid, and it could cost the town considerably amount of money because the quote is up.
Right.
So I can see the urgency for this, but I understand why we don't need to waive it tonight by the urgency. I'd also point out that this has been a long drawn out process and it's included all the stakeholders. So the EMS, the fire, the police have all been involved in this. It's been when I first joined the council, we talked about radio towers and moving the tower from this little single tower here to a tower here. This has been an issue that's been plaguing the town for a long time, and it's taken a while to get to this point. But we are at this point. all the stakeholders, the fire, EMS, the police are all in agreement with this proposal. And I think we should move forward with this as quickly as possible to get this done and started, because we need to start it as quickly as possible.
Very much agree. Councilor Camillo?
When did we get this back from the state when they reviewed it? Was it just this week or?
It's been an ongoing discussion. I received some emails of it bouncing back and forth. We got the confirmation from them. I want to say it was last Thursday or Friday. I reached out to, I can't remember his last name. First name's Manny. Or might have been, I reached out to Andy last night, knowing that we've gotten everything completed. We got our reviews from our chiefs. And they literally got this lease finalized for me and sent over this afternoon.
So you have everything. We could waive this tonight, just to make sure it's done. Who knows, a snowstorm, something next week, which they're calling for on Monday.
If there's a snowstorm, we'll have a hybrid meeting.
Yeah,
We'll
we'll
have a
meet.
meeting.
we still have the secondary authorization for the lease itself for that. So I don't have a problem getting that completed and having it for the 13th.
Yeah, I would follow your lead on that if you're okay with us. I would prefer not to waive if it's not a necessity.
Well, it's not listed on the
We're on a
agenda.
roll
as a
already,
waiver.
so.
Right. It's true. It wasn't posted as a waiver.
Right.
It's a special
So we
meeting, so.
can't switch the special meeting agenda. That's true. I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
So it's not really an option. Yeah, I understand your point, Councilor Camillo, for sure.
It's supposed to snow?
They're calling for snow showers.
Oh, good.
So they're weathermen, so we're gonna get hammered.
Today it's gonna snow Tuesday.
Councilor Donahue?
The second part that you're gonna put up for next week, do we have to, is that gonna have to be waived to be approved, or is it gonna be?
No, this is all part of the lease agreement itself. It's just, right now, your resolution is specifically allocating funding into the new budget year for CIP. The lease agreement still requires authorization to execute separately. So that'll be a separate resolution for you, and I'll make sure you guys have a copy of the entire lease package as well as
Okay.
materials.
So, because we're talking about it tonight, it's gonna be.
It's whole business Tuesday, right?
Meeting, correct.
Follow questions.
It's old business. It's like old news.
It's been old business for how many years?
It's been old business forever.
All right, any other council comment or question?
Nope.
All right, so we will move this to our agenda for next Tuesday, the 13th meeting for us to take action. Next item this evening is public participation on agenda matters only. Any member of the public can weigh in, either in person, come on up, or if you're in the Zoom app, you can raise your hand there. Welcome back, Mr. Costello. If you could just state your name and address again for the
Yes,
record, thank you.
Clark Castell, 167 Connecticut Avenue. After hearing all of your comments, I want to make to mine, I just want to make it clear to everybody that the source of my anger and the source of what I believe are the many deficiencies in the agreement have nothing to do with people in this room. It's the former town manager and the current town attorney. And the issues go way beyond the tax abatement. My problems go way beyond the tax abatement issue. I also want to point out, I don't know if you know this or not, the FOI ruling in my favor completely dismissed the two arguments that the former town manager and the town attorney offered for not giving me the information before the that I've requested before the public hearing. I was there at this final hearing, and it was a roll call vote, and it was unanimous in my favor. I was there to restate my argument. The former town manager and town attorney did not make an appearance. As some wag said, it's a long drive from Waterford. Joke, sorry, bad joke. I did have a question for James. These extensions are being sought by Anthony Properties.
We're not allowed to engage in a back and
I'm
forth
sorry,
in public
okay.
participation, but if you want to pose your questions, we could certainly
Yeah.
provide answers afterward.
The way I read the original contract was that if they ask for extensions on a monthly basis, they also had to pay into our account $3,000. And one of the things I didn't mention for lack of time earlier was through my latest Freedom of Information request, which was fully respected by the current administration, I only saw 4 extensions and proof of deposits of $3,000. It seems to me there should have been 12 and 45,000. So I get the feeling that that was not fully not a big deal in the scheme of things, but I did want to point it out. So my question would be then, and I know you can't answer it, is that these further extensions that they need to ask for, is that Anthony Partners asking for the extensions? And if so, will you ask them to do it in writing and deposit $3,000 into our account for each month?
Okay,
Circumstances may be completely different, but I did want to make that point.
okay.
And again, I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Lyons, let me just click on over there to you.
Rose Lyons, 46 Alton Drive. During the first counselor's remarks to public participation, I didn't know where Councilor Camillo was going with his remarks about the the tax abatement given to Amara, other than to put blame on the party that was in the majority at the time. And I realize that this is a special meeting and usually only you can speak to the items on the agenda, but I want to speak to his comment. I don't believe that it was Amara that was given the tax abatement. It was the Frisbee property, the owner's proposal for a smaller scale community up there, retirement community, and that too has not come to fruition. In any case, just to correct the record, if I'm wrong, I'm sure that Councilor Camillo will tell me soon. Thank you.
Thank you. 1 second, guys. I just have a few things to click through. Okay. All right. So we are on now to remarks by counselors. Councilor Camillo.
The extension was because the EPA didn't get it done. Is that correct?
Because the notification to the EPA
Notification.
wasn't completed. I
So-
will say, the agreement I have, this is the third. So we had the initial and
Right.
additional deposits. So there would be one included with this one.
Okay.
Any properties is granting us an extension now.
Correct.
They're not asking for one.
Asking, right.
For it.
Yeah,
And then it was Amara. It was a $66 million project.
that was the Frisbee property, right?
That was
The
after.
property, but they came to us
Okay,
from Amara.
Yep.
Okay. I was on zoning then.
okay. Councilor Rada?
Yeah, I just want to direct my comment to Mr. Castell. I want to thank you for your persistence, for your diligence, and also for your candor tonight. So thank you very much.
Any other council comment or questions? All right, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you, Sharon. Any opposed? We stand adjourned.
Nobody
at 7, nope, yep, 7:32.
Yeah.